Hi guys, so for many people including you and me, we're all on a kind of a money journey. I've talked about this a few times on this channel. And for many of us, debt is almost a constant feature of our money journeys, whether we are going from a place of living paycheck to paycheck or working our ways towards a place of some form of financial security and stability, and all the way towards a place of financial independence. Many of us live with all kinds of debt, whether it's payday loans, mortgages, student loans, credit cards, family loans, business loans, what have you. Debt remains a big part of our lives day to day. And for me, my approach to debt has always been to break free and become debt free. And so one question I get asked quite a lot is, which debt should I be paying off first? Okay, and so for lots of people with lots of kinds of debts, people don't have a framework for which they should be tackling first. So for today's video, I'm going to show you kind of how I approach this. I'm going to show you on the screen, I'll draw you a bit of a framework for how you should be thinking about your debt and how you should be prioritizing them in order to work towards becoming debt free. My name's Ken of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. What we do on this channel is give you the tips, the insights, the practical hacks to help you work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy. Okay, let's dive in now and start to talk about this idea of how we should think about paying off our debt. In what order should we be doing it? Okay, now before we even dive into doing that, I wanted to say to you that for me, there are 5 things that you should actually have done or have in place before you even start to kind of prioritize your debt and go about paying off debt, okay? So I'm gonna just outline those real quick, what those 5 things are. So the first one is to be very clear on why paying off debt matters to you. Now, obviously, ordinarily, paying off debt is a good thing to do, and I hope you're one of the people out there who believes that taking on debt means that you actually pay off your debt. Unlike some people who believe that taking on debt means that you have the option not to pay that debt off, okay? So understanding why you're paying off that debt matters, because for me personally, I always try to connect the idea of debt freedom to a future outcome, like your personal goals, your life dreams and things like that. So making sure you're clear on that why gives you the motivation and the drive to remain on course to becoming debt free. So the second thing you should do is to make a list of all your debts, okay? I know it can be overwhelming if you're in debt at the minute and you almost feel like hiding your head in the sand, okay? But it's very important to really be proactive when it comes to debt. So make a list, grab an A4 sheet of paper, and here's what you write on that sheet. I'll tell you what they are. So first is you write the person who you're owing, so the creditor you're owing some money to. So write a column for them, the creditor. Second is to write the type of debt you've got. So this could be mortgages, student loans, credit cards, what have you. The third column is to write what the amount is, kind of how much are you owing per creditor. The fourth thing to write in there is what rate of interest are you currently paying on that debt. And the fifth is to include a column that states what terms, what ordinary or special terms you might have on that debt. So for example, you might have an early repayment charge or a penalty, or you might have certain flexibilities, things such as payment holidays, and that sort of thing. And what this does for you, and the reason I like doing this, is that you have on a single sheet of A4 a complete picture of your debt life, okay? Another way of doing this is to use a simple net worth calculator, because on the left-hand side you could write all your assets, and on the right-hand side you could write all your liabilities, which would include your loans as well. But for this, I'd say use an A4 sheet and simply focus on writing your debts only. Having that on a simple sheet of A4 gives you a clear and concise picture of your debt position. Okay, number 3 is to choose an approach towards paying off your debt. So this is your strategy that you're going to focus on towards attacking that debt. Okay, and this is the whole point of this video, which I'm going to talk to you about as we go through this video. Number 4 is to then set goals around your debt. So after you've chosen your approach for paying it off, this step is to then set goals around it. And I know for certain that if you don't set goals around your debt, you will just carry on paying them on autopilot without being motivated to seek out ways such as, starting extra kind of side interest that might generate you an extra income towards that debt, or simply seeking out more effective ways to manage your lifestyle in order to pay off your debts a lot quicker. Now, the fifth thing is, before you even start attacking your debts, is to set aside some cash for emergencies, okay? Emergencies, as you know, as we're even in the current climate where we are facing a global crisis, many people are now relying on the need for some cash flow, some immediate cash being available. So always make sure that before you tackle your key debts, that you have bits of cash set aside. It could be a month, it could be up to 3 months worth of expenses set aside, to make sure that you are ready in the event that certain life emergencies crop up, which they tend to, and you are prepared for them in the event that that happens. Okay, so let's now dive in and look at which debts should you pay off first, okay? So ordinarily at this very moment, you probably have a bunch of debts and you are somehow managing to kind of pay them off as you go along, okay? For some of them, you're probably paying minimums, and for some of them, you are being more targeted. You almost feel like you have to pay them, otherwise something might happen, okay? And you're kind of getting along somehow, okay? Now, I'm gonna share with you my framework for doing this. I'm gonna have a look at my iPad. But before I do that, I just want to mention that it's worth mentioning that all debts are important. So before I share this framework, all debts are important, okay? What we're doing here is just identifying a way in which we can prioritize which ones we should pay off first or not, okay? So I'm going to put up on the screen now to show you a simple framework I've drawn on my iPad, just to kind of demonstrate to you how I would look at prioritizing various types of debt, okay? So ordinarily people talk about things such as the debt avalanche versus the debt snowball. With the avalanche, you are prioritizing paying off the most expensive debt, okay? And with a debt snowball, you are prioritizing paying off the smallest debt and then moving on to the next debt and then moving on to the next one and so on, okay? Now, those are perfectly valid methods for paying off debt, and they work and they're effective. But I wanted to just take a bit more of a dive into this and kind of explain with a bit more context for why I'm approaching paying off debt in the particular way I'm showing you right now. So up on the screen, you can see that I've created essentially 4 little quadrants, okay? Those quadrants are made up of what I consider to be expensive debt and non-expensive debt versus urgent debt and non-urgent debt. And I've then categorized various bits of debt based on where I think they fall in, and then I'll tell you why I've kind of justified them in this way. And then I've then categorized in those boxes which order I will pay them off, as you can see in green, numbered 1 to 4. So let's look at what I've got on the screen now. So you've got urgent debt that's either expensive or not expensive. So starting at the top right quadrants, I've got there debt that's urgent and not expensive, which I consider to be mortgages and rent arrears, okay? Now, these would be the first things I would pay off when it comes to making sure I meet my debts every single month. Because although your mortgage is not expensive, it's important and it's an urgent thing to do, because it will by no means affect your credit report if you don't pay your mortgage on time. At the same time, if you are renting, you've got rent arrears, please don't have the attitude of owing money, because number one, it just demonstrates that you are not a good steward of money generally. And number two, these things never ever look good for you if you're somebody who's going to move on one day perhaps and rent somewhere else. It will always kind of stick with you and follow you as someone who hasn't been paying or who has an attitude towards owing money, okay? So where possible, prioritize looking after your home, because your home is your home. It's what it says on the tin. So you want to make sure you pay your mortgage first and you're paying your rent arrears and keeping up with that, okay? The next batch of debts that I would prioritize would be the kind of expensive and urgent debts. By those I mean your car loans, personal loans, or court debts, okay? Now, I mentioned car loans. And the reason I mention that is because with those sort of loans and personal debts, you have agreed somewhere that you will be paying those debts at the same time every single month without fail, depending on what plan you've decided on. Now, obviously, you can get rid of your car and clear that debt if you really wanted to take really urgent measures. But if you still kept the car and wanted to pay your debts off periodically and trying to decide which ones to pay, you do have to focus on the expensive and urgent debts next, because with those, if you miss those payments, there are serious consequences potentially either on your credit file or with core debts, for example. There are a lot more, much more punitive things that are likely to happen if you kind of don't keep up with those payments that you were meant to make. Okay, so those would be the second group of payments that I would target and prioritize. The third, and this is possibly the most cunning group of payments, are the expensive but non-urgent payments. Okay, by that I mean your credit cards, payday loans, store card loans, that sort of stuff. They will cost you the most money over time. Okay, so you want to be targeting those because those are really high interest loans that you want to make sure that any excess money you have is directed towards paying off those balances as soon as possible. Okay, and the reason I've done this in this order is you want to make sure that with the urgent stuff that will affect you, like immediately, you want to deal with those first, and then you want to focus on what's expensive and then deal with those in order. Okay, so credit cards, payday loans, you'd focus on what's the most expensive of those bits of debt. And because they all fall into the same category of being expensive but not urgent, you have to target the most expensive on that list to gradually pay that down. Okay, and then the final group of debt I will focus on would be the non-expensive and non-urgent. Now, in this group, I've put student loans. Now, obviously, you have to pay your student loans if you earn above a particular salary amount. Now, I've put that there because there are people out there who don't earn up to the required minimum in order to start paying their student loans. So it's for that reason that I've kind of marked it as not urgent. Okay, but again, student loans are debt, obviously, and you do have to pay off your loans. But ultimately, compared to more urgent loans and more expensive loans, like the likes of car loans, credit card loans, payday loans, those rank a lot higher in priority, in my view. But ultimately, you should be making sure that obviously you're paying off all your loans ultimately over time. In the same category of not expensive and not urgent, I've also put things such as loans from friends and family and government debt and business debt. And I've put those there because those are bits of debt that you will ultimately pay off, but you can negotiate a term over which you pay them off. Okay, so you can come up with payment plans and that sort of stuff in order for you to buy yourself some time whilst you focus on the much more punitive debts such as your credit cards, payday loans, and more urgent debts such as your mortgage where possible. Now, obviously with a mortgage, you can negotiate to pay a lot less, but you still need to pay your mortgage, whether you've got a payment holiday with your mortgage or not. You ultimately still need to pay your mortgage because it's a debt that's tied to your name and one that can affect you quite negatively if you do not pay it. Okay, so that's my approach and how I will prioritize my debt. So just to reiterate, I'd start with number one being the urgent but not expensive debt. Okay, simply because that debt is important, is non-negotiable. Then I'd move into the urgent and expensive debt. Okay, because again, for the obvious reasons that they are expensive debts that require payments immediately. Then I'd move into the expensive and not urgent debt because they are costly and will cost you a lot over time. And then finally, I'd settle with the non-expensive and non-urgent debts because they're still important and need to be paid, but they'll rank a lot lower compared to all other types of debt. Okay? The goal with any type of debt that isn't urgent or expensive is to make sure that you are communicating effectively with the people you owe money. You don't want to be seen to be somebody who is not paying and not communicating, because the communication helps to leave a footprint to show that you've gotten in touch and you've had a conversation and began to negotiate various payment terms for your debt. Okay, so that would be the number one tip I'd recommend outside of having some form of a framework by which you pay down your debts. We've made other videos on this channel on how you can approach paying off your debt. One in particular is about how you can approach and destroy your debt. I'll put a link to it below and above for you to check out. Also check out our videos on things such as how we paid off our mortgage in 7 years, as well as other bits of content on how to prioritize paying off debt versus investing your money. Okay, I'll put links to those below for you to check out. I'd love to hear from you actually in the comments if you are somebody who is currently paying off debt and juggling with the challenge of which debts you need to prioritize. How are you currently prioritizing paying off your debt? I'd love to hear from you in the comments how you're doing that. Please share and get involved in the conversation. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today on how you should approach the order of paying off your debts every single month. These tips will apply to you whether you're thinking about debt in the short term or thinking about them in the long term on your journey towards financial independence. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure you hit that like button to help to encourage other people to engage with our videos. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications bell so you get notified when we publish content twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you again on our next video. Take care and bye for now.